Hey, I'm the composer Andrew Lloyd Fry, and today I'm going to be talking about music for Mallet Instruments, voices, and organ by Steve Reich. This piece, I think one of the things that makes it important, this is definitely the music for 18 musicians practice run. This was like a couple years before that. And you can see there's a lot of similarities going on. Before this was drumming, then this piece, then music for 18 musicians. And I feel like this was like the trial run for a lot of ideas that he had, and then that was developed more in music for 18 musicians. So first up, the instrumentation for this is 3 voices, 4 marimbas, 3 glockenspiel, and 1 organ. So again, just like music for 18 musicians, this piece is, you just from the instrumentation, you know this is going to be a very different type of piece, and obviously the emphasis on the malleted instruments, which is just going to give it a very different sound, different texture. So this is in 4 sections, and again, he's using an arch shape or a pyramid shape. And this piece, if you read what he's said about this piece, and if you look at the score, it's actually very process oriented. So in some sense, it feels like the composing was the process, and then he took some fragments that I would say are not very notable in themselves, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, and put them in his music machine with these rules he made up, and this is the piece that came out. Now normally I think of a very mechanical, process driven, here's these rules and you just plug the thing in and see what comes out. That's not something that sounds like that would make good music, but I love this piece. So I would say whatever makes good music is what you should do. Okay, so just like in music for 18 musicians, there's pretty clear division of groups. So we have the malleted instruments, the marimbas and the glockenspiel, and they're the more melodic, faster moving voices, and and then the other group is the voices and the organ and the vibraphone. I think I forgot to mention that earlier. This has vibraphone. So they are doing these long sustained tones, and the vibraphone is kind of the go in between those two groups. So first it's with the long sustained voices and organ, and then when those become too long for the vibraphone to realistically sustain, because there's other instruments can sustain much longer, it switches to a faster moving thing like the glockenspiels and marimba. So how this piece works is there is a marimba fragment. Now, let's see, let me give you an example. So that is not a phrase that I think is sparkling, shining, amazing, but there's 3 marimbas, and the one marimba is doing that a 5th higher, and one is doing that a 6th higher, a 5th and a 6th, something like that. But it's exactly just the interval is transposed up. And then the 4th marimba is displaced by a beat or more, it varies, and goes through the beats for rest process. So instead of playing the whole fragment, it goes through this process of the fragment being built. So for example, the 4th marimba comes in going, so it's this whole process of that fragment being developed, but also it's displaced. So once that has gone through the process of being built and it's complete, that triggers, so again, it's very, some sense mechanical, the long sustained notes to augment or lengthen. So lots of times they're just doing something, the long sustained voices are like, or something like that. It changes, but it's all kind of in that, just like on a note and going down one. So again, once that marimba completes its creation of the full fragment being there, that triggers those to do the same thing, but now it's augmented, and it might be like twice as long, or something like that. So once that happens, the next thing that happens in the piece is the glockenspiels go through their process, and it's actually the exact same thing. So there's a glockenspiel that's been going the whole time with its own fragment, and glockenspiel 2 goes through that same process of displacement, and it's like a cannon, but the beats for rest thing where it's slowly building itself up. And then once that completes, that triggers another lengthening of the organ and the voices. And this is where the vibraphone is now just like going to go to like 8th notes or 16th notes, and it's no longer doing like the long drone thing. And so we're like at the top of the pyramid. All of these feel like pyramids or arches. And once you reach that point, then another voice comes in, and I'm not remembering what the term is, like resultant patterns or resultant melodies. There is a specific term for it. But what this voice does is picks out fragments of melodic material that it hears. Now, it's because at this point there's going to be 5 malleted instruments, and they're all pretty active and they're doing different things. The melodic material it's going to pick out is not a melody anyone is playing, but it's hearing a note here and a note there and a note here. So it's kind of if you just listen, the things that stand out are these little melodies that's the resultant patterns of all those moving parts versus hearing a specific melody. So the voice, the third voice, will pick up on some of those and sing that on top. And that's the top of the pyramid where the voices are the longest. And then that triggers a shortening of the drones, and a lot of those, the malleted instruments, come into unison, and then it shortens again, and then that's the end of the section. And then that story is essentially just played out again. So the keys change. If you read the composer's notes, he talks about each section being a different chord. I don't really hear it that way or process it that way. It's hard to argue with the composer. But nothing's going like, or whatever. It feels much more like a stack of ostinatos with a key center. The last thing I wanted to point out is I think one of the things that's difficult about this piece is sometimes that instrument which is going through the journey of development. And I feel like if that's happening to the glockenspiel, I feel like that is the melodic focus point. Especially with the glockenspiel, I feel like that can be hard to hear. If you have the score in front of you, it's easy, but obviously that's like less than 1% of people who are going to listen to this. It's easier with the marimba, but even knowing that that's happening, I think can help the experience, because you can hear the process of what's going on, and you can direct your ears to what really I feel like you're supposed to be listening to.